All right. There we go. Oh my goodness. Okay. Howdy, guys. Howdy, everybody. Nick and Gary. And let's
Hello,
see
hello.
Hello.
my comments over there. Oh, that's Gary. Hi, Gary.
That's me.
Good evening to you too. You're so good at that. Yes. Good evening, chat. If you would, in the chat, of course, please let me know if you can't hear me. Yep. Oh, yeah. There you are. Hi, Nick. Good to see you too. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We are going to be chatting for the next hour or so about board games that we've been playing that tell stories. Each of us picked pretty different areas, which I'm actually excited about. That's what I wanted. Bring some variety here. I picked from what I'm playing more recently, and I took it a little more literally. But we got some Euros, we got card games, all that good stuff. But first of all, let's do a little round table, introduce ourselves. And when you introduce yourself, I just want you to tell me, since our whole theme is storytelling, what was one of your favorite stories when you were growing up as a kid? I don't care if it's a video game or a book or a movie, nothing super detailed, but what was just a story that really stuck with you? And then just tell us a little about who you are. So I'm going to pick on who we're going to go. Nick, you're right below me, so I'm going to put you at the center stage here.
Of course. Hey, everybody. All right. I guess I should start introducing myself. So, hey, I'm Nick Gurley.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're all by yourself. I mean, I can be beside you if you feel safer that way. That's weird.
Look, we're all there. We're all together. I
Hey.
love this. Yeah, so I'm Nick Gurley. I'm the executive producer at Sea Stories Creative Studios. And we recently kickstarted Voidpilot's Legacy, a solo sci-fi adventure tabletop game successfully. So super exciting. You asked me what my favorite story was growing up. And actually, it was the Dragonlance series by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, if I recall correctly. And the part about the book that I loved the most was the interaction between the two brothers. Raceland was the wizard who was super magical, but very weak and problematic, sick all the time. And then his brother was basically a barbarian. And this really fits well with my brother, who's my business partner, Alex, who's not here. I think that would be Raceland, and he would be the warrior who keeps us together. So yeah, it was a great story.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And where can we find you? We'll do it again at the end, but just if anyone's interested.
Sure. Voidpilot's Legacy. Basically, on all of our socials, we're just Voidpilot's Legacy, and I'll put that. Actually, you can see it in the comments right now.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Fettigator.
All right.
You're up. What's up, man?
Hey, everybody. It's Gary, also known as Fettigator. You'll probably see me. If you've seen me probably like on Man vs. Meeple back in the day. About 4 or 5 years ago. I did a lot of stuff when they first started out because they live pretty much near me out here in Indiana. And then I've been doing some things with Francis and Anthony over at Ant Lab Games, and that's a lot of fun doing some live streams. And so that's pretty much what I do. I don't really like have my own channel or anything. I just kind of come into everybody else's channel. So and talk games, which I love doing. And a favorite story of mine, sitting. One of the first ones that jumped right in my head was Where the Red Fern Grows. That's a great story about a boy and his comes across two little dogs. And I grew up on a farm over in Illinois, and we had tons of dogs, and I got attached to a couple of them. So I just really related with that story. And that's probably one that really jumped out, just kind of like the adventure. It's kind of a tearjerker, so be forewarned if you haven't read it. And but yeah, that's what I would say. Where the Red Fern Grows.
Where the Red Fern Grows. And see, I'm in control, so I don't have to make myself solo up there. So Where the Red Fern Grows was Gary's. And Nick, tell me one more time the name of the story you had.
It's a whole series, but it's a Dragonlance series. I can drop it in chat.
Okay. Yeah, do that. That's pretty cool. I've heard of both of them, but I didn't know them when I was younger. So in the chat, you all know who I am. This is Board Games for One. Thank you all for showing up. A story when I was younger, and I would love to hear in the chat, one of your favorite stories when you grew up. There was, when I was in 6th grade, for a hot second, I was in public school, mostly homeschooled, but my math teacher had a little library of books, and he would let us just borrow them and read them. And one of them was called Danger in Quicksand Swamp. Yep, Vanessa Dragonlance. Ah, you love it too. All right, I'm gonna have to check it out. But it's such like an adventure boys book. It's just these two, I think they're brothers. They're either brothers or friends, and they're going in through a swamp that there's a lot of quicksand. They're trying to solve a mystery, and the alligators are trying to kill them. And I'm just like, this is amazing. I want this life. And I never forgot that book. I need to find it again because it's fat. It's pretty fat for those kind of adventure, maybe Hardy Boys style type books that I was reading back then. There we go. Dragonlance series. Margaret Weiss. Tracy Hickman. I know that name. And where the red fern grows. I'll look it up later. All right. Let's get games. I'm interested. Okay. I wondered if they made it a show or something.
They did maybe back in the 70s, but I mean, the book is way better. So
yeah,
it always is.
Okay. It always is.
Yeah. All right. So we will go through just kind of one game at a time, and it's just a discussion around it. So if I'm talking about mine, interrupt me, ask anything. I'll try not to be rude, but I might interrupt you. What I'll do is I'll pull the game up on Board Game Geek, kind of like last time, see if I can find the images to flash around there, and just tell us a little bit about how it plays, not a full tutorial, a little bit how it plays, what you like about it, maybe what you don't, who you think it's for. And in chat, if you know anything about these games, especially the ones I talk about, you always know more than me. Please feel free to help me out. I've had you before, Gary. So will you launch us off, and then we'll go to Nick's game, and then we'll go to one of my games. Okay.
Sure. I'll start with Halls of Hegra.
Hold. Don't go too fat. Hold on.
All right.
Well, hold on, everybody. Everybody, be patient. I'm stopping sharing the screen. I hope I don't stop the stream. Good. I didn't stop the screen. And now I'm presenting Galileo Galilei. I'm going to share it.
I actually thought about that
There
one.
we go. We talked about that one last time.
Yeah, we did.
That one.
I actually thought about that one for tonight, but I knew we already talked about it. It's such a good game.
Did it. We already did it. Okay. All right. Halls of Hegra.
Yeah. So basically, the kind of the way I went at this is I'm a huge nonfiction history buff kind of guy, and I've been in the industry for heavy since about 2014, so about 10 years now, and playing all those games that everybody's been playing and stuff. And I kind of had about 2 years ago, I finally, after saying, I don't want to get into that, I don't want to do that, into like kind of the wargaming side of board gaming, which is kind of another niche. But what's great is that in the last 2 years, you're kind of starting to see wargaming designers like, you know what? There are people out there, these Euro people or these other co-op players, they kind of like the solo players too. Let's just make something and kind of draw them in, which I've been so excited about. Like Fort Circle is a company. It's really kind of bringing in kind of like not the heavy war games, but they're bringing in fun
Votes for Women was a war game, right?
Votes for Women. They got a Blackbeard one coming out.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. They got a few others out there, but yeah. So they're kind of in this niche. But this is just one guy, and the story is it's a true story about 1940 with these like a ragtag group of Norwegians. The Germans are marching their way through Norway, and there's like this old fort church. It's still there. You can go to this place, right?
Real quick, sorry, that's funny. Gizmo.
Yeah.
Votes for Blackbeard. Is that the name?
I don't think it knows that. Votes for Blackbeard.
Okay. All right.
It's like a mutiny. Votes for Blackbeard. Arr. But yeah, so there's this old fort, and they'd used it like, in their old wars and like World War I. But as the Germans in 1940 were kind of pushing their way through, these ragtag group go into this, and they just got to try to hold this fort out. And this game is over the course of 3 days, and it's a solitaire game. Now you could play it 2-player. In fact, I think Francis and Anthony did it kind of. They doubled up,
cooperative,
and you just kind of make decisions together.
Okay.
Now the thing is, you don't see like all the little hex encounters like you usually see in a war game. This game has worker placement. It's got bag building, 3 bags. There's a couple little counters like that. It's got all kind of surrounded around a tower defense game. And like I said, and the way this game ramps up, because you can read the story in the rule book at the end, and these basically the first day is like you're just trying to gather supplies, which is what this group did. And it was in the middle of winter, so there's a lot of snow. So on these, it's 3 days. You play a morning phase and a night phase. That first day, you're just trying to gather supplies, and you got.
Did you ever survive?
I have
like with a good surrender.
With a what surrender?
With like a good surrender.
No, I actually beat this game.
Okay.
After losing quite a few times, because it's a hard game to win, but not a hard game to play. Like any game, once you get the hang of, like, okay, I see what's going on here. But the first day is you're just trying to gather supplies. You got different types of workers. You got medics. You got military. You got an officer who's kind of in charge. You got volunteers. You got hunters. And events will come out each day. It'll tell you, like, is it sunny out, snowy, all those kind of things. But you're going to send some guys to go out and get some more supplies. You're going to send some people out to shovel snow, because as you shovel snow, you open up, maybe you might find a radio. Oh, yeah, awesome. Or we just found another gun we can use, or something like that. Or we found a medic kit. What happened back then. And so then you're trying to gather all
getting at, when we'll get back to it. What you're getting at is this what you would call emergent storytelling? I keep hearing that term.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean by emergent per se?
It's like the story emerges.
Yes.
Based on, it's not a narrative. It emerges based on your gameplay, and you're kind of making it using your imagination, but it's your gameplay is telling a story.
Yes. You're playing. It's a very when you think about it, when I think about it, when I play this game, it's like very almost cinematic. Like as you're playing this, you can kind of see this going on. You're playing each day as was really happening. But of course, you got your own mitigation. You're doing your own things, maybe trying to do things a little bit different, maybe what they did, because you're pulling guys out of the bag. Those guys may not be able to be used the next day because they got to rest or tired.
And that's these little tokens, right?
Those are supply tokens.
Those are your guys.
Yeah.
Oh, those are supply tokens.
Those are supply tokens.
Oh, okay.
Your guys, you'll see the little colored discs. There's like red, blue, green. And those are the ones you'll put out in certain areas.
Okay.
That's your worker placement stuff. Days 2 and 3, that's when the siege began. And so basically, you're just trying. The way you win a game is you're just trying to hold off the siege, because on days 2 and 3, you have another board that flips over, and now you see your walls of your fortress.
That's right.
And these Germans are advancing, and you're trying to keep guys on your walls to keep the Germans back. You're still trying to send people out to get more supplies. You got people in the hospital. You're trying to get them. Do I heal them, or do I go stand on the wall? Or do I go fix this gun, or do I go get supplies? So it gets super, super tense.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's just, I love that kind of narrative, because I love these games. Like I said, being a history buff, I didn't know anything about this story. I'm a huge World War II buff. And I mean, I'm totally engrossed in this thing. And I'm like, and I just learned something that actually happened. I've gone and shared this story to the normal people. Like, yeah, have you ever heard of this story? So I really like that.
And they take you through it in the rule book, correct?
Yes.
Like they have a whole history. Like, here's what this phase 1 is. Phase 2 was this. Phase 3 was that.
The rule book could be a little bit better, but I know on the back it's got a nice little chart, like takes you through all 3 days to make it a lot easier, so you don't feel like you're flipping through. And it's not like one of those. And I will agree with all those who aren't war gamers. War game rule books are like a nightmare sometimes to get through. They're like novels. You got the rule book, and then you got the playthrough book, and then you got the rule book about the playthrough book, and then you got the narrative. And it's just like, oh my goodness, just tell me the rules. You guys need to start talking to some of these Euro gamers and find out how to just make this game without all these other, rule 12.8.3.d. But that's why I like, this is a Euro game. It's a war game wrapped in a Euro kind of cloth, with just some of my most favorite mechanisms. And I mean, that's like a map of the area around Hegra, and you can send your guys
I
out.
only figured out how to. I've been spending all this time clicking while I'm actually just trying to figure out how to zoom.
I'm actually
All
doing the
right.
same thing. I'm clicking through all the pictures too. This game looks amazing.
You know what? And it came out last year, and a couple like just reviewers, I saw a number of them like in their top 10 list, of the year. Like this game was just so good. It's difficult.
I picked it as my game of the year.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see
Just
Marty
because of everything that went into it is really remarkable.
I see
Now,
Marty from Rolling Dice and Taking Names. He's in the chat. He makes up a great point. Those historical games give some great memorable experiences. That's so true. You're just like, oh wow, I nailed it. And you go read the story, like, oh, I did that. That was my guess, and I did it right. So I do love it. And like I said, it's very cinematic as you're playing this game. If you enjoy things like that. I'm sorry, you were saying something.
No, yes, I don't remember what it was. What you were saying was great. It was great. Role player adventures, Above and Below. Vanessa, Above and Below is I want to try anything in that series. Because I just have absolutely no idea what to expect from it, but I'm intimidated because it's like a whole series of things. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I was throwing you off there, Gary. I know what I was going to ask you. I wanted to ask you who do you see enjoying playing Halls of Hegra?
I would see people. Well, I think first, number one, if you like solitaire games, you're gonna really enjoy this. You have to set it up and everything. Honestly, I know some people. I would say the people that really like adventure games. Okay, yes, it's not your traditional adventure game like over my shoulder Pirates of Maracaibo. It's not something like this. But if you're just interested, like, you know what, I want a little challenge. I want a little solitaire experience that'll take like 90 minutes or so, maybe. But you can get it down to about 90 minutes of play and like really kind of find, how do I want to move my guys around efficiently in the best spots to get this? I think, kind of those the tactical players. It's a bit of a tactical game. It's not really long enough. We're going to do a lot of strategy. If you like tactical stuff,
but you do have to be okay with losing, right?
Yes, you do have to be okay with losing. But the nice thing is you can re-rack this game fairly quickly.
Okay.
I think I forget the gentleman's name, so you have to forgive me. But the gentleman who designed this, I mean, he really put a lot of great thought into this, and really,
I sure should know.
Brought the story out.
We have
what's his name again?
We have Peter Shunk Olson, and
yes.
Thank you, Vanessa. That's good to know. Above and Below. I will mark that in my mind there. Hey, Port Wills. Okay, yeah. So, Peter Olson.
There you go. And I believe he's working on another game too, which I can't remember what it is, but I know I'll be excited about it.
Awesome. All right. Any other words on Halls of Hegra as one of your storytelling games?
No, just go play it.
Just go play it. Okay. Is it available anywhere now? Did it ever go to retail or anything?
Oh, I have never seen it in retail. That's not to say it isn't. I know there's some copies floating out there. Did he do like a second Kickstarter on it? I can't remember because there was a Kickstarter.
Thought so. I think somebody said I get it mixed up. People tell me these things, and I believe a viewer had left a comment that there was a relaunch. I could be wrong. There are some on the geek market. There's one in the US. I'm sure Noble Knight Games or something. But oh my goodness, you've been talking for a long time, Gary.
Sorry,
Nick. No, thank you so much. Thank you. That was an excellent pick. I was really happy to see that and hear your thoughts on it. All right, Nick, what do you got for me?
Well, before I start anything, I do want to say this game looks amazing. Now you've got me interested. First of all, your game of the year, Mike. So clearly it's a good choice. Gary, that was a glowing endorsement. I actually remember war games when they would come in magazines that you would like be subscribed to, and you could like cut out the little tokens, or they just you throw on pennies or whatever. But seeing games like this with like the level of quality where they've gone now is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'll talk about the first game. So I think you used the term emergent game storytelling from the gameplay, and I think this one does a good job of that.
I might have made it up, but I think I've heard Evan Derrick of the Final Girl guy. He talks about it that way. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. So I'll talk about Space Hulk Death Angel, it's an older game for sure. I think the only way you can get this is on eBay or what, like the Geek Market or one of those places. I was able to grab a copy.
2010. That one right
Yeah,
there.
this is the.
Oh, you have the box right there. Here, let me
Oh,
make
yeah.
you big. That's super cool.
I mean, yeah, I was definitely playing this game. It's a ton of fun. So first, I will say this: this is a Warhammer 40K game. So if you know Warhammer 40K, it's got its own story. It's very intense. You don't have to be a Warhammer 40K player to love this game. That's number one. So the barrier
That
to entry is lower
explains
than
why I heard about it. I had a friend that was really into 40K, and when he saw me playing Aliens, Another Day, Glorious Day in the Core, he was like, "Oh, that's like Space Hulk," and I was like, "No, it's not. I don't know what you're talking about." It is,
Yeah.
but okay, the connections are there.
Yeah. So basically, what's unique about this game is that it's actually played in a vertical format, and the concept is you're taking a group of space marines who are these, basically the cream of the crop of the Imperium through this Space Hulk, and you're fighting off the Gene Stealers, which are basically analogs for aliens of any kind that come out of the vents and are terrifying. But what's really well done is that even in the solo play, you as a player feel like you have pretty good control of the game. And here you can see right here, that's the vertical layout. So it's like you have a row of 6 Marines. Your location card is on top. On the sides are basically the parts about the location, and then you have your aliens all around you. And what's really neat is you can see these arrows that the Marines have to face a certain direction, otherwise they're being overwhelmed and flanked. And so the stories that come out of it, which actually I was not expecting, is that like you'll be running a set of Marines through like the initial location. You'll move to another location where basically like they have these very Warhammer-esque names, but an area where like you have the ability to like basically hit a control panel and wipe out whole groups of aliens at once. But the bad thing is if you mess up, you start killing Marines instead. And the idea is that you've got to make it through at least 4 locations in the solo mode. I have yet to make it through all 4 locations, but every time I've played this game, the stories that have come out of it when I'm telling my poor family, it's basically like these heroic Marines went in this horrible spacecraft. They made it through like they I don't know, they took a serious chance and teleported themselves. They lost 2 guys immediately right to mush. And then they were immediately overwhelmed by, I don't know, 60 aliens. It's ridiculous. And so it's just so much fun.
Is this what they call a boss battler, or is this not? Is that different?
So that's a great question. They do have a boss at the end. So you have these, I think they're called brood lords. Basically, they're like the bigger version of the aliens. They can take out Marines with a single hit. But really, the mechanics are super simple. I was actually very surprised by that. So it's a very simple dice mechanic. So real quick to pick up and play, very fast to set up once you're used to it. This game is not just for people who like Warhammer. Like I said, you don't really have to love Warhammer, but if you are a person who loves games like Nemesis, or you like watch the Alien movies on repeat, this is the game for you. And it's just so entertaining to like pick it up when you've got a couple of minutes. I think the game box says it takes about 30 to 60 minutes. It's usually on the low side for me because I get wiped out so fast.
Oh, that would be me. So how key are the dice?
So the dice are super key. That's how you resolve all the attacks in the game. But it's a really simplified mechanic, and it's actually a ton of fun. There's a lot of special abilities that come into play, so you're keeping track of a couple things. It's a very entertaining game though, and the stories really that come out of it very fun.
Good question from Vanessa. Would it be considered more so a skirmish game?
Yeah, I would call it a skirmish game. I think that's probably a pretty good description. Gary would probably. I know your librarian of game terms is probably much deeper than mine. What do you think?
Well, for a skirmish game, now I've never played this game, but I could see it like that. Oh yeah, like a card-based skirmish game for sure. In fact, I was just thinking, this is an interesting kind of game design. I was sitting there thinking like, what you could do other themes to this using the same type of. I'm sure there are some out there. I just can't think off the top of my head, but I really like this. I really need to try this.
So I will say, like, and in my description, I don't make the mistake and and make it sound like this game is super simple. The mechanic for choosing the actions, you can't do the same action the next turn. And so your ability to move and activate, support, or attack is limited. And you've got 3 combat groups that you're operating with. So you basically have to figure out how they can support each other. So like, Gary, you like military games, so you know terms like combined arms.
Right.
So basically you're trying to set that up in this game. And if you figure that out, it's super effective. If you don't, you're overwhelmed very rapidly and your Marines are all eaten by the aliens right away. So very interesting mechanic.
Yeah, that's not. I need to try this.
I was glad you picked this too, because I've recently gotten interested in Space Hulk, and trying it, I had no idea that they had a card game to start with. So,
Oh yeah.
excellent. All right. Any other things that you want to share on that?
No, I really enjoyed this game though.
Okay, so that's 2. Those are 2 awesome ones. I took the theme a little more literally, but it's also because it's something I've been playing recently. I went with something that actually has stories in it. So we are going with Time Stories, which I've had on my shelf for a couple years, as well as a few the little expansions, and I haven't been wanting to go through the rules to figure out what on earth this game is, because it says like a 2 to 4 player game or something like that. It doesn't say 1 player, but you can play it solo. And whenever we do these, not all of these are going to be solo games, but generally what I present will have something. But Time Stories is essentially it's a cooperative game where you are performing a narrative investigation. So this is different from both of your picks. So I think the answer here is yes. Oh, that's Voidpilot's Legacy. See, it takes me a while. But so with this, you are following a guided story and solving a mystery. The time is an acronym for something, but basically you are these agents in the future that are sent back in time to fix time anomalies, but you don't know what the anomaly is. So, for instance, in the base game, the one that I played, you are sent back to an asylum in the 19th century somewhere. You don't know what's wrong. You just have to find someone suspicious. And the way that you play it, if you're playing solo or with 4 players, you have to control all 4 hands. So you have 4 different characters, and you get to pick between maybe 12 different. So like this Felix guy is one that you can pick, but you pick a character out of, say, 12 available to play as, and you like inhabit that person's body in order to investigate. So you start out in the asylum, and you have 2 sections of the board. I'm not sure if I will be able to find it. Let's see if there's an overlay of the board. Kind of. Right here. No. Right there. Okay. So in this top left up here, that's like the world map, if you're familiar with that. So that's like the zoomed out where you as a team decide, okay, we're going to go into the library of the asylum, or we're going to go in the kitchen. That's the first thing you do. You go into the library. Then once you're in that library, you go to the location, which is at the bottom of the board, this right here. And it's made up of a deck of cards, and you lay them out by letter. So like A has a spot B, and you end up with a map of the front-facing cards. From there, everybody is allowed to spend a time unit. I'm going to put that up there. You think Bob wanted to fire us? It's hard to be great at your first time. Spoilers, I ended up absolutely loving it. I don't know if I would love it as much in a group. For me, it's more of a solo experience. But so you each are allowed to spend a time unit. So there's game to it. So like I'm allowed to spend 1 time unit, which means you get to pick one of several things. You can either investigate a room or do something else. I don't remember all the different actions, but there's not a whole lot, right? If you go to that spot, you flip over the card, it's some kind of surprise. So like I go over to the mental patient and he tries to attack me. So I have to fight him. And so you have dice for that. You have skill checks, like in a role-playing game, you roll the dice for the skill check. And if you survive it or if you fail, it tells you to do something. So you do that thing. You gather information and you're like, okay, this person said something suspicious is happening in the graveyard. Surprise. There's no graveyard. It's another spot. But anyway, so you're like, we all need to go to the graveyard. That's your next turn. Well, all of these cost time, and you have